The second segment of the nightly news is brought to you by Labrie Credit Union. Labrie Credit Union. We are not a bank. We are better.
Welcome back. Following a drawn-out investigation into allegations of sexual misconduct by an executive of the St. Lucia National Youth Council, a vote to expel the executive member from office has been reached. The NYC says that the action taken against the member is a clear indication to constituents that such allegations cannot be taken lightly, especially at the leadership level.
A verdict has finally been reached, and the executive member of the St. Lucia National Youth Council, who was accused of sexual misconduct, has been expelled. The anticipation surrounding the conclusion of the investigation has been suffocating, as it was prolonged for approximately 2 months following the initial June 25th deadline. On Friday, August 13, 2021, the independent committee submitted a final report to the National Executive outlining its findings and recommendations. Upon review of the report, the National Executive consulted its General Counsel at a meeting held on Wednesday, 18 August 2021. At that meeting, a motion was approved to convene an extraordinary general meeting on Thursday, 26 August 2021 to adjudicate the matter. Public Relations Officer of the St. Lucia National Youth Council, Stacey Elver, confirms the expulsion of the executive member, where 29 member organizations voted.
At the extraordinary general meeting, 26 out of the 29 member organizations present voted in favor of a motion to remove the national executive member from office, citing the committee's decision to refer the case to the relevant authority, disrepute caused to the SLNYC as a result of the allegations, and the members' failure to adequately address the situation at hand. The action taken against the member should send a clear message to our constituents that such allegations cannot be taken lightly, especially at the leadership level of the St. Lucia National Youth Council.
The independent committee provided recommendations to address the alarming lack of safeguards for both children and young people in both policy and practice. The committee highlighted 5 areas in which redress is needed: operational, accountability, programming, legislation, and policy. Elva Lafay says that a formal complaint procedure will be enacted to accommodate vulnerable youth.
In building from this process, the SLNYC will prioritize the establishment of complaints and reporting procedures to protect vulnerable youth against abuse and communicate that abuse can happen to anyone, at any time, by anyone. As an organization charged with the responsibility to advocate for the welfare of youth, the SLNYC must continue to be a lead champion for child safety and protection.
The St. Lucia National Youth Council apologizes to all parties directly and indirectly affected by this situation. Elva Lafay says that the council remains optimistic that constituents, stakeholders, and the general public will invest in the council's potential to rebuild credible leadership and regain trust. Reporting for the Hot 7 Nightly News, I am Karim Nelson.
Former chair of the National Command Center, Dominic Fede, is calling on the government to invest in more quarantine facilities amid a surge in COVID-19 cases. Minister for Tourism, Dr. Ernest Tilley, spoke Monday on government's plans to tackle COVID-19.
During a recently held press conference, former chair of the National Command Center and Tourism Minister Dominic Fede took the current administration to task for the handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. For the past few weeks, St. Lucia has seen a steady incline in the number of COVID-19 cases being recorded on island. As of Sunday, 29th August, St. Lucia has recorded 8,111 cases of COVID-19, more than 1,900 of which are currently active. Fede says the surge in numbers is completely worrying. However, what is even more concerning is the fact that many individuals are sent home to quarantine and isolate. He says as the number of cases continues to increase, the government needs to invest in more state facilities to host individuals who have tested positive for the COVID-19 virus.
In every instance, do we have the appropriate housing situation in the home? Do we have enough bathrooms so that a positive case at home can isolate from a member or other members of the family? These are the issues which are presenting real problems for the management of COVID in our country. We're calling on the government, therefore, to address this situation by quickly and promptly opening up additional capacity to isolate people in state quarantine. It is one of the pillars upon which we can fight and flatten the curve of COVID-19. And so we beg you, Mr. Prime Minister, to follow the science which is clear to all of us. Restore confidence in the people of St. Lucia.
Minister for Tourism Dr. Ernest Hilaire on Monday explained that the National Command Center is in discussion and the decision taken next by the government will be guided by them.
We will look at the recommendations come out of the Command Center today. But it's interesting to know that when this government went into office, there was only one state quarantine facility. All the others were given up by the last government. All were given up. Belgium was given up. All the other facilities were given up. So as we need more facilities now, we need to go back and negotiate with persons that own those facilities to be able to get them. We only got one state facility available to us, one. So now that the numbers are rising, if the command center requires us to get more state quarantine facilities, we will have to do so.
Fede, during that press conference, criticized the current administration for not having a set or strategic plan in place to address the COVID-19 situation. Dr. Hilaire says that is far from the truth.
I know the command center is meeting right now to discuss the weekend and the responses of the public to the changes that were made, but new changes came in effect on Friday. Now we've been taking an approach of gradually speaking to people, trying to put in place measures, hoping that people would adhere to them, encourage them to adhere to it. And we're going to assess it step by step. And I think the command center is presently doing an assessment of the weekend and will report to cabinet later today.
Dr. Hilaire says the government will continue to be guided by the advice of the experts and decisions and pronouncements will be made upon the conclusion of consultations with the various stakeholders. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Genevieve Gonzague.
On the table for Tuesday's sitting of the House of Assembly is the amendment of the Drugs Prevention and Misuse Act. The Attorney General has explained that this means the decriminalizing of small quantities of cannabis and the expunging of the records of individuals who have been charged for the possession of small quantities of cannabis. The Rastafarian community has reacted to this news.
The Rastafarian community has for some time now been advocating for the decriminalization and subsequent full legalization of cannabis. This back and forth between this community and the various administrations that formed the previous governments of St. Lucia recently resulted in a constitutional claim against the government in regard to the rights of citizens to use cannabis. On Tuesday, one of the motions which will be laid before the House of Assembly is the amendment of the Dangerous Drugs Prevention and Misuse Act. The Attorney General, Leslie Mondesi, explained that this is just one step in the right direction.
Tomorrow, we're going to Parliament to amend the Dangerous Drugs Act in relation to small quantities of 30 grams and below. 30 grams and below in terms of legalizing possession in relation to 30 grams and below tomorrow.
Legalizing possession?
Well, legalizing, decriminalizing it, 30 grams tomorrow. We are looking at also amending the Criminal Records Rehabilitation of Offenders Act as it relates to convictions of persons who have exactly what you said in terms of those convictions. So we're amending those we're seeking to amend those two pieces of legislation. So the minister could look at it and say, okay, you've had this conviction, it's been affecting your life down the road, and then we'd like to basically expunge those records.
The previous administration was heavily criticized for playing political football with the decriminalizing of cannabis, an initiative which the then UWP administration said was in the pipeline. Mondesi explained that the initiative was one that the new administration knew was of utmost importance and wasted no time in enacting.
This is something that was the Prime Minister had wanted, and when I took office, something the office worked on diligently to get before, because we know it has been affecting a number of persons over the years, and it's something that I think the members had raised before as it relates to persons with those convictions.
The Rastafarian community has responded. Former president of the Ayanola Council for the Advancement of Rastafari, Aaron Alexander, says this is welcome news.
If this happens, we will say bravo, well done. We also fervently hope that there will be a formal and sincere apology to the Rastafari community, whom have endured the brunt of the prohibition law for over 50 years. the incarceration, the destruction of our families and communities, the seizing of our properties, the jail time, the exorbitant fees imposed on us for possession of small quantities of cannabis, even the killing of our members of our community. We also hope that mention will be made of the rights to respect the Rastafari use of cannabis, our constitutional rights, our spiritual rights for the use of cannabis as our sacrament. At this point, we do not know where this position now adopted by the government will leave our constitutional claim, which is before the High Courts concerning the cannabis issue. Notwithstanding that, we welcome such a move by the government.
Alexander says the Rastafarian community is waiting anxiously to see the outcome of the amendment and to see it come into effect with haste. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Genevieve Gonzalez.
The former president of the Ayanola Council for the Advancement of Rastafari is eating his words after news that government will indeed move to decriminalize cannabis. A sitting of parliament is scheduled for Tuesday, the 31st of August, and among the bills to be tabled is the Drugs Prevention and Misuse Amendment. Part of that amendment is to change the quantity of cannabis that is considered to be possession from 15 grams to 30 grams. Alexander is apologizing to the SLP administration for his former statement.
I offer an apology to the St. Lucia Labour Party when I said on a platform that a vote for the SLP would be a vote against cannabis. The actions being taken by this SLP government process will prove me wrong.
The amendment will, however, seek to make it so that a person shall not smoke any part of the plant in a public place, whether one is the owner, occupier, or concerned with the management of premises in a public place and knowingly permit another to smoke cannabis. In other news, social media influencer Devontae Monaville took a step into the world of politics and featured prominently during the election campaign as one of the voices railing against the former Alan Chasney administration. The influencer says the message of the St. Lucia Labour Party resonated with him, given the promises to put LGBTQI rights on the front burner.
I'm praying that they keep to their promise. I've been hearing a lot of things like we are trying to force our lifestyle onto people. That's not what we want. We want acceptance. We want to be able to walk the streets like everybody else and be ourselves without having to worry about who we offend. The SLP, I do hope that they keep to their promises, because I did say I was going to keep on their backs for that. When I got here to St. Lucia, a lot of persons have walked up to me and said, Devontae, because of you, I got like over 200 messages in my inbox where persons tell me they were not going to vote, but because of me, they voted for the SLP because they believe in what I see. I have made life a little bit easier for them in terms of the personal struggles that they go through. So because of me, they were able to give SLP their vote, and that always makes me feel good. So I'm hoping that SLP really honestly do not disappoint me.
Monaville, who interviewed former Prime Minister Dr. Kenny Anthony ahead of the elections, says he would welcome an opportunity to represent his country and community on an international level as an ambassador.
I would be more than happy to be an ambassador. That would be a dream come true. But I mean, let's see what happens.
Monaville, who is now on island and has spent much time in the U.S., has some word of advice for the LGBTQI community. He encourages people to stand in their truth.
Anytime somebody realizes that they have the upper hand on you, they will continue to harass you. You have to stand strong in your truth, not back down, and let them know, okay, I'm gay and you're not going to take advantage of me. Likewise, if you're going to meet somebody, because I know a lot of you have your sneaky links, let somebody know where you're going, because you could never trust people. You know what I'm saying? And be very aware of your surroundings. Be very respectful to the straight people. Don't disrespect the straight people, because that is something that I've been hearing that they have a problem with, where gay people disrespect them by bringing their sexuality to them. Somebody is straight, you respect that. If they want to see you, they will make the move. Don't make the move. That creates unnecessary friction between the straights and the gays.
That was social media influencer and entrepreneur Devontae Monaville. This is the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. There's more news after the break.
The second segment of the Nightly News was brought to you by Labrie Credit Union. Labrie Credit Union. We are not a bank. We are better.